Good morning and welcome to the Rewind Show, the Sunday supplement 239. I'm Steve Brown, and over there, manager of Baker Borough, is Brent Peters. How are you doing?
Well, I feel a bit better this Sunday than I did last Sunday. After the Saturday.
After we got walloped 4-0 away at Aston Athletic.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's always good to come on this show on the back of a positive week, and it has been a positive week.
It has.
One thing I will say before we get really into the depths of this, I just have to send my our thoughts and commiserations to Ollie Hodgson's family and Ollie on the passing of his granddad that actually happened just prior to the Colne game. But Ollie, wanted his granddad's wishes, which was right, that he still carried on and he wanted to play the game against Colne. And no doubt his granddad would have been proud of the performance that he actually put in on that game and scored as well. So yeah, but it's never, my thoughts are out. We Ollie's dad, because we all know we all have to go through it. We all know what it's like to lose somebody close to us.
Yeah.
I go back to when I lost my mum and my dad. It's not a good place to be. No. So our thoughts are with them all.
Nice one, Brent. Yeah, I was just going to say, I wrote that in the free press last week. What a difference, 7 days in the life of Baker Borough, and it's kind of, you've got to roll with the punches, haven't you? And when you get defeats, you get defeats, and you shake hands and you walk off, and then you move on to the next match. Yeah, that's North West County. That's semi-pro football.
Correct. 1 minute you're up. Well, it's a roller coaster, isn't it? 1 minute you're up, next minute you're down. And you've just got to. It's how you respond to it. It's how you react to it. We were disappointed because we'd had an excellent performance, 2 excellent performances actually in different ways. We'd gone to Main Road on the previous Saturday. Never an easy place to go. Main Road are an excellent side. And an excellent club, and it's never easy to go to Main Road, and we had to grind out in different circumstances a 1-0 win.
Yeah,
and we got that, and then we came up against a new team in the league, but a club that's been around for a long time, that's done remarkably well. In terms of getting their infrastructure right and everything right, a well-run club in Fullwood Amateurs. And we come up against them, and we knew that it'd be a difficult game, but we had a fantastic performance on the Wednesday, followed with them, on top of the Main Road game. But then we go to Aston Athletic, not taking anything away from where themselves, but with a manner in how we turned up and how we went about it, it were like it were kind of carrying on. It was like a little bit of a disease that's carried on from previous seasons, where we've had excellent results midweek, and then we fall flat on our face on a Saturday. And there's got to be a reason behind that. You can't keep doing that. Mentality comes into it. Preparing for a game, that comes into it. Recovery after a last game comes into it. There's a lot of things come into it, but as a management team, and along with my coaches, we've got to think of ways that we've got to eradicate that. And I came on here and pulled no punches. Listen, we set this show up. It's only like, when you're faced with this show is something different in terms of all managers get interviewed. I've been interviewed all through my career with the local press. You know, they always want a manager's comments.
Yeah.
And sometimes managers are kind of guarded in the way that they respond.
Yeah, you get the cliches coming out straight after a game. Usually, they say the same things, just in a different way.
But I kind of go back a long time, and even when I was setting off, you know, I mean, I would imagine that when I was setting off in the game, a lot of the old school managers at that time would have been thinking, who's this guy that comes on? Where's this name appeared from all of a sudden in the press and keeps talking? But let me tell you a little secret here, you know, and it comes back to, you know, the late Tommy Docherty. You know, Tommy Docherty always, you know, I've taken advice along the way and listened to some good people and top people in the game. And Tommy Docherty always said to me, look, Brent, you know, if the press come on to you and want to know something, ring you up, which they do, because they always wanted to fill the pages.
Yeah.
He said, you need to tell them, just be open with them. He said, but there'll be certain things that you won't want to say to them, you know, but still be upfront with them, but just say, you know, it's off the record, don't print that. They always want to know what's going on, you know. And he said, and that's the way to do it. And that's something that I followed throughout my career. Yeah. So what happens is, you know, it comes to Monday morning, the local press will ring you up and said, you had a good win on Saturday. You know, what can you tell us? Anything else going on in the club? Anything you need to know? We need to know and everything. So I've always been up front and I've said things. So I've then got a reputation whereby, you know, in the media section, you know, we'll speak to Bacup Borough manager Brent Peters. He always has something to say, you know. But that's something what's come now. What we decided to do in this show, it's a twist on it, because it's only my head of media, which is yourself, is doing a 1-to-1 interview on a Sunday morning, which is all about the week previous, any games we've had, talking about yesterday's game,
and then football news, and
any football news, and then talking about, you know, what's coming ahead. And I'm one of these, and you know, and I said it to the players after, because obviously some watch the rewind show, some may not.
They watch it all the time, which is great.
Which is great, yeah. But some might not do, you know. But they'll always know, because they have their own group chat, and they'll always talk about what's been said, and they're inquisitive to know what's been said. Now, I'm one of these, and it's the same whether I'm giving a report to, you know, any reporter about how I thought the game went, or it's the same whether I'm talking to you live on this show. I'm going to tell it as it is, because there could be people at the game, and if I don't tell it as it is and I start to cover things over, somebody's going to say, well, I read that game. He's lost the plot.
Yeah, what a load of bollocks.
What a load of rubbish he's saying. He's chatting blinking rubbish, right? That's exactly what'll happen. So I ain't going to blinking have that situation, you know, brought to my door, right? So when something happens in a game, I'm going to be 100% to the table and tell it as it is. I'm not going to hide anything. So if my players, and I always say this, if players want to have the blinking smoke blown up their blinking backside, right, and all good, all sweetness, lightness, and roses, which is fair enough, right? But equally, when they do something that's rubs against the grain, they've got to accept that. You know, I'm not going to try and name and shame them on a show like this, but obviously, I might say a position. You know, now unless you. Yeah, they've got to be accountable. And I will always say something like that. I will bring it to the attention and say, look, we were shambolic, we were a disgrace, you know, this shouldn't have happened. It's how they've shown a bad attitude or whatever. And then, you know, and then obviously I was criticising on this particular game, I was criticising the what did the fullbacks give us, you know, both in defence and going forward and things like that. So, you know, in some quarters, people don't like to hear what you're saying because especially if it's against them. And it's the same, we're all human, we're all in it together. Sometimes I can open a blinking Twitter account, right, and I'm flicking through it, and all of a sudden somebody's having a bit of a go at me. But I've got to ride it. That's the nature of the beast. That's what I'm in. I've got to ride it. I've got to have broad shoulders. It's like water off a duck's back, really, because I've been in the game a long time. But them are things you've got to take. Now, it's the same with the players. It's the same with coaches. It's the same with everybody. People don't like to listen to or hear adversity if it's against them, but they like to hear all the positives and good things if it's for them. So last week I had obviously I told the truth. I had a pop, and on I'm not sure what day it were. It might have been Monday. I spoke to one of my coaches. I could tell by his tone of his voice on the phone he weren't right happy. But am I bothered? I'm not bothered. It is what it is. It's like when you're a manager of an establishment, and like take my business for instance. If I've got he might be one of my best drivers, but if he's like took his foot off the gas and he's done something wrong, he'll get told whether he likes or he doesn't like it. But one thing about me, once I've said something, I forget it. I don't forget it completely, but it's gone. I don't bear grudges on anything I do. We just go on. I just move on. I'll say what I have to say, and then we move on. And that's how it has to be. But I felt that last week's show, I couldn't brush things under carpet when we've had such a good week.
Yeah.
And then we've fallen flat on our face on the Saturday because we've been up at a level and Ashton Athletic have been at a higher level. It wasn't a case of that, right? It was a case of they worked harder than us.
Standards had well dropped,
and they'd worked harder than us, but it didn't take a lot to work harder than us because we didn't work.
Yeah.
And we were just playing within ourselves. So the situation came when, after they'd listened to the rewind show, it's funny because I'm getting reactions coming back, odd reactions, apologising and, we'll put it right. But I look at it this way, talk is always cheap. It's all about actions. You've got to put actions speak louder than words. So, but when I'm hearing things in text messages where certain players are saying, I felt tired, I felt heavy-legged, I don't accept that, because the reason why I don't accept it, in the North West Counties League and in the Evo Stick League and in the National League, it's a given, and in the Football League, it's a given that you play twice a week.
Yeah.
And you don't play twice a week where you give it your all on a Saturday and you give fuck all on a thinking Tuesday, excuse the terminology.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like that. You've got to give it your all on a Saturday and you give it your all on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
That's what makes you successful. You cannot take your foot off the gas. Now, if that's the case, you've got to blinking condition yourself right. So you've got to condition yourself, but equally, how do you condition yourself? Well, let's say, for instance, you've had a tough game on a Saturday. After everybody's listened to the rewind show this morning, then they should be out doing a brisk walk somewhere, or they should be out on a bike ride, or they should be in the bath, go in the bath and have a swim, go in an ice bath and have an ice bath, recover, get ready for a Tuesday game. That's all about preparation. Now, they won't do. People won't. You'll get certain people do different things, and but it won't be the right things to make you into preparation. Also, I believe when somebody says that to me, I felt tired, I feel heavy leg, I think that's a slur on my coaches, especially the fitness coach, because they're saying, hang on, you're tired, so that means you're not fit enough. So
in our case, we got the best one in the league.
Correct. So I'm not having it. So it's just a load of blinking hot air for me, and I'm not taking it, so it's up to me to do something about it. As a manager, I do something about it. Now, ahead of the game, I could have brought people in, and another thing that players don't like, or certain players, what they don't like is they think, when the game's finished on a Saturday, and they've been told in the changing room after the game, and there's a debrief going on, and they have a chat, and they sit there quiet, and they're listening, and they're gutted, and their heads in the. But half the time they're not listening because they've just had an hour and a half football. They've just got blinking wasted in an hour and a half football, right? The coaches, managers having a bit of a pop at them. They're not really sinking it in, right? And they can't wait to get out the changing room and go on the blinking lash, ready, you know, and so when you turn up again for the game after, it's usually, oh, we forgot about that game now, let's play today. But if you don't eradicate it, the same thing's going to happen again, and it will happen again and again and again. So what I do, I can either have got two choices, right? One is I can bring him in on the Monday and say, right, you're coming in on a Monday, and you've a game on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, but you come in on a Monday and we'll debrief and dissect that game on Saturday. Now, straight away, that's not going to go down well because people will go, you know, I've got to travel to Bacup on a bleeding Monday night, you know, and we'll be travelling to, and then I've got to travel to Bacup again on the Wednesday for the game. Blinking heck, my missus is this, my missus is that, or blinking usually go here on a Monday, or so they don't like it. They don't like it because they've got something on, but I could have done it, right? But I didn't do it. We made it, but then there has to be a time and a space where you've got to remind them and bring it back up again about what happened in the previous game. Because if you don't, the same thing will happen, 100% will happen again.
Yeah, there's no improvement taking place.
Exactly. So what happened were, I didn't bring them in on the Monday. I decided not to bring them in on the Monday, but 100% they were going to get told on the Wednesday prior to the game. And for me, that's the best time. But then you get some cynics, especially one player who's not with us now, right? But he'd be saying, oh, freaking hell, I've come to prepare for the game, and he's just telling me about freaking what's happened in the game before. Well, yeah, I am. Because I'm reminding you, I'm not putting up with that shit that happened the game before. You get me?
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Right?
Well,
whatever you said on Wednesday, Brent, prior to the game, and of course, the players were watching the show at the weekend. I see a lot of them, they do come on and watch. It worked.
Well, it did work because
we saw a completely different team.
It did work because straight away, let's just look at the area about the fullbacks. What did you see different on Wednesday against Colne?
They were crossing the halfway line.
they were contributing to our attacks.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They were stopping crosses, which they hadn't been doing. You know what I'm saying? So straight away, the pennies dropped, and they've played at an intensity. And that's another thing that they did.
Yeah.
You know, against Colne, they played at an intensity. So straight away, they've taken on board what's been said on the show. They've taken on board what's been said in that changing room before the team were announced against Colne. And they've gone out against Colne, and they've played at an intensity, and they've actually executed what the role of a position demands. And like I tried to say on the Rewind show last week, in a game of football, in a team, every role has different responsibilities. Yeah. So if you're playing as a fullback, and your responsibility is obviously first and foremost, you've got to defend, you've got to get tight to your man, you've got to stop crosses, you don't give him enough space to whip a ball in. You know, when we've got the ball, you go high and wide, you get on the ball, you do bounce off passes if it's space, if there's no space, you try to work the space. If once you've worked the space and the space opens, you attack the space, and then you deliver your deliveries into the box, whether it's pullbacks, whether it's a lofted ball in, you know, cross, you know, you just vary whoever, you know, your target people are, who you're playing with. All these things come into it. And if you don't execute that in a game, then you're not operating and doing justice to the team in those positions, because that's what them positions demand. Yeah. It's like when you play up front. If we switch to up front, when you've got a main man up front wearing number 9, there are variations of players that can play number 9. There's players that play off the shoulder and running behind all the time, but there's players that can do both. There's players that can run off the shoulder, but there's players that can, hold the ground, let the ball come into them, control it, kill it, bring the runners in, and then go and support, link play up. So there's variations. But if you get a player, we'll give you an instance yesterday, and I don't want this to sound like a bit of a negative on the person I'm talking about, because the person I'm talking about were excellent again yesterday, right? But it's learning, right? There was an instance yesterday, and I'm sure it were in the first half, right, where the ball's come into him, and he's kind of immediately on his half turn, and he's got it nicked on his half turn, and if you remember it, it's broke down. It's gone through us, right, straight away, and then we've ended up having to defend it, and they almost scored. Yeah. And it's come from not basically holding it up top. You follow me? So that's how important sometimes it is to hold the ball up, protect the ball, get the ball between, and just wait and hold people off. They can't go through you. If they go through you, it's a foul. Yeah. You follow me? So all I'm trying to say is again, so if you've got somebody that's playing up top that doesn't do that and doesn't protect it, you're running the risk of the defence being absolutely ripped apart, and they could the opposition could very, very easily get in. So every role has its responsibilities within the setup, and it's important that players execute that role as good as they can do in every game. And basically that's what happened against Colne. They responded, which is fantastic. They're taken on board, which is fantastic. Now then, there was something I touched on prior to the Colne game when I were talking, and don't think as a manager when you go home after a defeat and that you're just going to forget about the game, and even the coaches, we don't forget about no game. We're thinking about it, and my coaches will cringe. I'll tell you now, my coaches, I know full well that if we have been defeated on a Saturday, but defeated with a bad performance, they'll be dying to switch the phones off. Yeah. Because I'm on the phone to them all the time.
They know what's coming.
They know what's coming. If we play well, like we did again yesterday, right, and we play well, and we did after the Colne game,
have a night off.
The phones don't ring. Because there's no reason for it to ring.
No.
You follow me?
There's no conquest. There's no discussing it afterwards, is there? About, it's kind of like, okay, we've had a good day at the office. Enjoy your night off.
Yeah. So I know, because it was funny, because even last Saturday at one point, I remember saying to Ryan Russell, and he said something, and he went, "Oh, it's not going to be a right good night for me, is it?" Because he knew that I'd be on the phone to him, and we'd be dissecting the game. So he can enjoy his Saturday or whatever, but that's the way it is. That's the only way you're going to improve, and everybody's going to improve. We have to discuss the game, whether we like it or we don't like it. And, that's what we do. Now, as a manager, I sit there and I think, yourself, because again, we've got these rewinds. So if you go onto YouTube and you go back to past episodes, you'll hear, and it forms a story. So if you listen to them, the story is that I've always said, and even at the start of the season, every season, look, we've proved that we're an excellent cup team, but cup games are different to league games. Yeah. And what we've got to do, we've got to try ourselves. We've got to try to get out of this division, right? Now, to get out of any division, you've got to have, in the main, you've got to have good financial backing, because to get the best, you have to pay. Yeah. right? It's just the nature of the beast. And if you can't pay, right, or you're struggling or whatever, or you're investing in something else like we are investing in something else, you've got to try and mold the players that you've got into being switched on, mentally and tuned, and mold them into being excellent players, and hope that these players can carry you through and get you to the next level. So the situation is, we want to be at the next level. We don't want to be. That's the next challenge, and it always has been the next challenge. But we've always failed on the next challenge and the reason why we failed is because we haven't been consistent. And one of the things why we haven't been consistent is what we've just spoke about. We're up there on a Saturday, or we're up there on a Wednesday, and then we're down there on a Saturday, right? Because of, they look at the league table, they look who we're playing. We're not playing with anybody of any fashion here. We should beat these. I can relax. No, it doesn't work like that.
No.
You've got to have the same mindset every single game, because if you don't, you come off your pedestal and you'll not. I have utmost credit to all these teams that have got promotion. Atherton Allier last year, consistent every single game. Every one of them consistent. Chadderton, consistent. All these promotion teams, Exton, we've had loads of run-ins with Exton, right? Consistent. They've been consistent, and they have different ways.
Season before,
consistent. They have different ways of playing, but they're consistent. They're not bothered about let's take St. Helens. They're not bothered about we get it from the back, we play through the thirds, we do this. It's just we'll get it forward, right? Because if there's any mistakes made, it's made higher up the pitch in the opposition's half.
Hit the big man and then feed off them second balls.
Exactly. And if it serves the purpose and does well, and it gets you where you want to be, then that's it. That's where you want to be. Now we've had situations where, rightly, wrongly, we're not consistent. I can keep rhyming back to games that we've been up there, and then next game we've dropped fall flat on our face.
Yeah.
People were talking yesterday. As it stands at the minute, we've just taken, which is fantastic, and I've got to give the lads loads of credit, absolutely, because of the way they've responded and reacted. But we've just taken 12 points out of a possible 15. Now, without being greedy and selfish, but you think, freaking hell, what were the blinking 3 points? It should have been 15 out of 15.
Yeah.
And if we're 15 out of 15, we're on course to be where we want to be. We're on course to be challenging.
But that's the mentality that the players have got to have.
Correct. Yeah, that's right, Steve. That's it. And they've got to have that mentality. So from a managerial point of view, when I go home at night and I sit there and I start to ponder and I start to think and try and get in people's heads in terms of why is these scenarios happening? Now, I've always been a manager where I'm a firm believer, if it's not broken, then why try to fix it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've always been somebody that's done, they've had a good performance team-wise on a Saturday. Why should I, change it on Wednesday, on the Wednesday or a Tuesday or a Monday? I shouldn't. But then it's got to the stage where, and this is something I said to them, because of the text messages or certain players were sending me text me, I felt heavy-legged. I don't think I could have given any more, and I felt tired. And well, that's no good. If you're wanting to achieve something, so maybe I have to have a different mindset. So maybe that's the reason why we're underachieving at times, and we're inconsistent, because I'm keeping the winning team from the Wednesday on the Saturday, but that winning team on the Saturday is letting me down or letting us down.
So maybe, like you said, looking at it, It may be you.
No, it may, yeah, because I'm not freshening it up.
Yeah.
So if you looked at yesterday, I freshened it up because I took 2 players out. Now, this isn't a slur on those players that are taken out because they put a big shift in on. They've take Brady Boardman. You know, I have to apologise to all his lovers from the cricket club. Because they were all there on Saturday and he's named on the bench. But listen, I can't worry about things like that. You know, at the end of the day, Brady's played in nearly every game and plays in different positions, and he's a, you know, he gives it 100% every time he plays, right? But there comes a time. Don't forget, this lad has come a long way in a short space of time playing at this level of football. He's got to a stage where he's earned himself a contract, you know, and he's playing every game now. So what I'm trying to say to you is the mindset of me now. I thought, well, we'll try this now. We'll try and utilise the squad rather than this is what I'm trying to build up to. You said it may be you, right? What I was trying to build up to is this: is that because I was doing it. If it's not broken, then why? If it's not broken, why try to fix it? But what's happening is I don't fix it because it's not broken. We've played well on the Wednesday, so I've kept the same team on the Saturday. But then the same team on the Saturday has let us down because they're saying, or some are saying, I felt tired. I felt heavy-legged. I run myself into ground on the Wednesday. Yeah. So then I thought, well, maybe there's some mileage in that. Maybe I should utilise my squad. And we've all got there's good players throughout our club. Our camp. So maybe I take certain people out for an odd game, not 2 games, not 3 games, just an odd game, just to freshen it up, you know. And so that's what I did yesterday. I took Brady out, not because he'd done anything wrong, because he hasn't done anything wrong, but I just felt that, you know, I looked at it and thought Mason Fallon didn't get on at all on Wednesday night against Colne. Didn't get on. Didn't get no minutes. Right? All the other subs did. They got some part of the game. Now, let's be honest here, and let's be straight and transparent. Unless there's an injury, the chances of you substituting as a fullback won't happen. I won't do it. No. Right? Because I don't like to disrupt my back 4.
And it's a negative move if you're looking to get 3 points.
So yeah, exactly. So you wouldn't move your fullback. Your fullback. If you're on the bench and you're a defender, unless somebody gets injured, you think, well, the chances of me getting on is slim. So the situation where I thought we take Brady out. Mason's a very, very good defender, very, very good player. He's an experienced player. He's just coming back from suspension, right? Let him play 90 minutes. And he's gone in yesterday and done a very, very, very good job.
Very good.
You know what I'm saying? So this is what I'm saying. So I've utilised the squad. And then I've taken out Ryan Siddall because he's played the last few games and put in a big shift in the last few games. Now, I'm sorry, whether he likes what I'm going to say now or not, but you only have to look at his physique. He's not where he should be fitness-wise, right? He's not. No. Right, and I'm not being disrespectful.
I think not where he was probably prior to his injury.
Well, like I said to him the other 2 weeks ago, just be having a bit of fun. I just said you need to stay away from that McDonald's, you know, and then just patted his stomach a little bit. Listen. I
tell you what, though, he does. We're having a laugh about it, but it's not stopped him from doing the miles on the pitch, has it?
No, that's what I'm trying to say. You've just got to hang on to my words, what I'm saying. He's done well, but his fitness levels for a midfield player is not where it should be. So in my opinion, now we might argue it, he was one of them that came back and said that he was heavy-legged.
Yeah.
He was one of them. So be careful what you wish for. He came back to me and said, I'll always give me all. He will give his all. He will do well. He will try. But there comes a time, right? Whereas now, if let's say, for instance, I'm just being a bit flippant here. Ryan Russell says, right, Brent, you can join in training with us today, and I want you to do that blinking 100 metres in so many blinking seconds, and I'm trying, but I can't do it.
Yeah.
You know, it's simple as.
Yeah.
There comes a time where you can't do it. So what I'm trying to get at is, he said to me, he's come back and said, well, we're heavy-legged. So do I take the chance of playing him? He's had a few days rest and playing him on a Saturday for him to be heavy-legged again? Or do I take him out and let somebody else come in that's freshened up, which is Tomo, because Tomo only got blinking 15, 20 minutes on the different kinds of players anyway. So what I did, we bring Tomo in. It's no slur on Ryan, because Ryan's done well. He's done really, really well. It doesn't mean to say that the next game we play, which is at Mugull, I think it is, on Saturday, Ryan will be back. Ryan will probably be back. You know, it'll be looked at differently again. This is my point, what I'm trying to say to you, Steve, before you said, oh, you've got to look at yourself. You know, because you're not following the blinking story. I'm probably 3 streets ahead of you.
Oh, well,
that's why you're a media man, right? So what I'm saying is that it's come to a situation where I'm thinking maybe I should take that stance where I utilise my squad. Now it might come to Saturday at. I'll give you an instance. Yesterday, I was going through the man of the team, and the team did really, really well, and there were people who did really exceptionally well. And one of the players, and we'll come to this in a little bit, one of the players turned around and he couldn't believe that he didn't get the man of the match. So we're having a bit of banter, right? We're having a bit of banter. And in the banter, I turned around and said, well, the reason why he got the player in question said, Lincoln Heck, I scored 2 goals and I have 2 assists and I haven't got man at the match. I said, yeah, but you know why? And I'm going to give the name away. It was Connor Morris. And I said, yeah, but you know why, Connor? I said, here you will give man at match to, played 90 minutes. You haven't. He said, it was you that bloody took me off. I didn't want to come off. But it was just a bit of banter. You know what I'm saying? So the point, what I'm getting at is, listen, at the end of the day, it might be somebody with man at match this week. I might take him out next week, only just to freshen it up. It might be that way that I have to go there if there's been a midweek game and things of that ilk. I don't know. But one thing I've got to do as a manager, I've got to look at, again, I come back to that, if it's not broken, why fix it? Well, that hasn't worked. Maybe because we've got a squad of very, very good players. Look who were on the sideline yesterday watching the game.
Exactly.
You know, Ty Williams. You know, and again, that's impeccable attitude. Ty's shown he wants to do well. He played against Woolton away from home that night. That's when the car crash happened. Yeah. You know, he ends up getting sent off as Mason got sent off. We were down to 9 men. Right, he's not played. He's had to serve a suspension. He's not played around the first team since. He's not even been a sub. He's played in the shadow squad and he's shown great attitude. But he's shown impeccable attitude yesterday because he's got in touch with Ryan and he's come up to the ground to do some extra training before our game yesterday and then watch the game. Now that for me goes a long way and doesn't go amiss. Yeah. Things like that. So at some point, if I stuck with the point of, if it's not broken, why mend it, right? It might be weeks before he gets round the first team. But if I go with the philosophy I went with yesterday of trying to just not overkilling it, but only took 2 out yesterday, but swapping 1 or 2 just to freshen it up, then he gets around the first team a lot quicker. Yeah.
But like you said, the strength in depth is there. You know, late on in the game, you're bringing... It's great when you can turn around and bring, you know, Alex Mellor on the pitch and Jack Hayward on the pitch. You know, absolutely brilliant.
Well, you've just mentioned a name there. Yeah, fantastic. And you've just mentioned a name there in Alex Mellor. And I think I should bring it to the table about that. Let's be perfectly honest about this, right? And I'm going to be straight here. Alex Mellor, right, has not done a pre-season because he's frustratingly had a bad injury that wouldn't go away. And every time he tried to come back, he broke down. To the point that he's not done he didn't do a pre-season. He's tried his best to come back. Frustratingly, it's not happened. And then he's had to take himself out even when season started to really get a grip with this injury. And then since then, he's got a grip with the injury and he's back in the fold, which is fantastic news for us all. Now, let's be honest, and I don't take this, and this is where sometimes the mentality, even something that one of my coaches said, which is the biggest load of freaking trash I've ever heard in my life. Not long ago, everybody around Bacup Borough was saying that blinking Alex Mellor was my love child, right? Because I pick him every game and he's in the team every game. For 5 years, the blinking Alex Mellor has been one of the first names on the team sheet. Let's get it right.
Exactly.
So it's one of the first names on the team sheet. So let's have it right. So this blinking trash that I don't think you'll agree with this one because, I prefer him. I'd prefer Alex. And where are you going from? I'd have Alex in every time. He might not score the goals that we want him to score, right? But every other part of this game, you wouldn't get a more honest lad, dedicated lad in the club than Alex Mellor, right? He will do the blinking out of possession stuff brilliantly, honestly, and do it well. And he will do the amount of assists, let's forget his goals and let's keep it positive. The amount of assists and creativity he produces is unbelievable. Yeah. Right? So those areas far outweigh the negative of him not contributing enough goals in a forward position that he plays. Yeah. So I would always, Alex would be one of my first names for that reason on my team sheets, right? 100%. Now, prior to the Colne game, we had a situation, and after the blinking debacle at Ashton Athletic, it was a situation, and this is where the coaches come in and have an impact, another input with myself. So prior to the Colne game, I have a dilemma. And the dilemma was, do I bring in Alex or do I bring in Josh Walton? Now, Josh Walton has been doing really, really well and didn't deserve to go out of the team. But if you think about it, Josh Walton wasn't playing in the shape that we're executing now. Josh Walton played in the previous shape. Yeah. And then when we changed the shape, which we've done, Josh Walton's been sacrificed. So it's been nothing that Josh Walton's done wrong, because he hasn't. No. It's just
the shape that you...
it's just a shape, and I couldn't get everybody in. And somebody had to come out. Yeah. So it just so happened it was Josh that had to come out. Which Josh could feel a bit done by, and Josh always wants loving, so I've tried to give him a bit of loving. Do you know what I mean? Because that's the way he is, right? But he hadn't done anything wrong. So I have got a dilemma here. Or do I put Alex? They're very, very similar. They can do the same things. They're very, very similar. So if I shut myself in a dark room and kept myself away from my coaches, the chances are, with loyalty, I would probably have opted for Alex. Yeah. Because of that loyalty and because I can trust him both ways. I would have tempted to go that way, right? I would have tempted to go for Alex, 100%. But one of my coaches spoke to me, and when we were having a conversation, because I speak to them all, I don't just make the decisions on. I do make the decisions, but I'll tell them what I'm thinking, and they'll tell me what they think, and then it's my decision. So one of them said to me, I'd be tempted to go with Josh. So I said, all right, why would you be tempted to go with Josh? So they give me good reasons, which is what you want. So I listened to the good reasons, and the biggest reason was there were two good reasons. One was he'd compete better in the air, and one of the and that's not our, because of the stature of most of our players, isn't our strength, because we haven't really got anybody to compete in the air as such in midfield area. So that was one of them. And the other one, which was a really very valid point, and I have to be guided by this one, because his role, every role in the club is so important. Nigel's role is important. Alan's role is important as technical coach. Ryan Russell's is really important, because Ryan Russell has all the stats on the fitness levels of players.
Yeah.
And it was Ryan Russell that spoke to me. It wasn't Alan, it wasn't Nigel, it was Ryan Russell. And when Ryan Russell said to me, he would compete better in the air, which was a good point, but also he said, Alex is not there yet properly with his fitness levels because he's not done a pre-season. Obviously, he's coming on and getting half an hour, 10 minutes here and there, right? But Josh has been with us from day one, all through pre-season. All through it, right? And that struck a chord with me. That part struck a chord with me. And I still couldn't make my mind up. So I rang Josh up. And Josh thought I were coming to tell him he weren't going to be in, but it weren't that. I kind of spoke to him and said, I want you to put yourself in a position as a manager now, not you. And he said, oh, if I'm not going to be in, I went, Josh, I'm not ringing about that. Just listen to me. So anyway, he did. And he went, I get it. I get where you come from. Oh, yeah, well, I'll understand if you put Alex. Well, I didn't.
No.
I sat on it. Rest of the afternoon, of the game against Colne, rest of it, I kept thinking about it, and I kept thinking about that pre-season. And Josh had been with us from day one in pre-season and not missed all the way through. And it was that got it in. And you know what? I've got to say,
it was the right decision.
It was the right decision because so whilst them lads are a team on the pitch, we're a team off the pitch. We have to be, because I listened to them. I listened to Ryan put some very important points to me for me to make that decision, and I made that decision. And I made it on the back of what Ryan had dropped in my head. Now, if I were locked in a room and not listening, I would have opted 100% for Alex, because Alex has so much in the bank for me, right? That's why people are saying he's my blinking love child. And sorry, Mrs.
But isn't that the beauty?
I'm sorry, Mrs. Bella, if you're watching, because I know you watch. But, and I'm sorry, Mr. Bella, but that's the way it is. But I love the guy to bits, like I love all my players to bits. But it was Ryan that put that in my head, and that's why Josh got the nod.
Nice one. Beauty of having a good coaching staff, Brent. Let's move on to...
well, just before you move on to something else, there's another one, right? So the Colne game, as you know, ended up a bit nip and tuck in the end, because it was 1-1. And again, this is important. I mean, listen, I'll be straight, me, here. It's important. So you make the substitutions. I make the substitutions to do it, right? And I must admit, at this point, because Jack had fluffed his lines the game before against what they call from Preston, Fullwood Amateurs. He fluffed his lines, didn't he? Went through, did everything right, and then missed. Remember?
Yeah,
so
I remember it.
I must admit that when it come to, we were pushing, we didn't want to draw the game, we wanted to win the game. It was important we won the game. So I kind of like got it in my head that, if we get a chance, who's likely to score, who can score. Now, on the bench, we had, let's take Aidan, for those who don't know where Aidan Lancaster has come from. Aidan is a very, very good player, and he's just had he earned himself a pro contract at Salford City.
Yeah.
So he's been a pro at Salford City, albeit for 12 months. But 12 months, you don't get pro contracts if you're a bad player.
No.
But I also know in the Football League that even though you might be there as a fullback, right back, left back, holding midfield player, they'll also encourage you get forward. And usually, as we've seen, and you touched on it last show, with Reece James, he can score goals.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at the bench and I'm thinking, we need goals. We need goals here. We need goals. Can I rely on Jack? Sorry, Jack, if you're listening. At the minute, this is what we're going through my head. It's a miss. He missed against Blinking. He doesn't look like, he's void of his confidence. He doesn't look like he's going to score. So I'm thinking, no. So then I turned to Aidan Lancaster, knowing where he's been, how he strikes a ball, everything else. So I said, Aidan, I pulled him, and I said to him, what's your goals? If you got chance in that final third, and he went, there's not a problem. I strike a ball, I can finish. Well, we've seen it with Brady.
Yeah.
When I've put Brady up there. So if you noticed, I played him and I put him in front of Brady, so we locked that. So basically, we're down the same side. You get me?
Yeah, yeah.
So I played him higher up the pitch, and he was causing a problem. But then I got called over to where Alan and Ryan were stood. And there was, obviously, you're in the zone. You're weighing the game up. And it was Alan and Ryan that said to me, it was Alan that said to me, it's crying out now to put another man up that top. It's crying out to put a man up that top. He said, get Jack on, put him up the top. He said, they'd had a man sent off, and it did make sense what he said. So straight away, because it made sense what he said, I've gone, no problem, we'll do that, yeah. So we did. So I'm not going to take the glory here that Jack goes on and scores the winner.
No,
again, I'm going to give it the credit to them two.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're there for. They stood there to give me that information. If I think, it's a good shout, I'm not always going to agree. No, I don't fancy doing that. But it was positive what they were saying. It's crying out because they were throwing the kitchen sink to try and get back in the game, and it only needed, think about it, it only needed one mistake in the box and they're back at they nicked the game, and it would have been a catastrophe had that have happened, because really we dominated throughout. So we did what we did. Jack scores the second goal, which put the game to bed, and certain people were saying to me the substitutions were good tonight, Brent, but I've got to give credit to my backup staff, because that's what they're there for, and that decision was made on the back of that discussion.
Yeah, brilliant. And then, of course, we went into yesterday's game full of confidence from the Wednesday. You made them changes, like you've just said, in Brady and Ryan Siddle. But what we got was another excellent, solid team performance, Brent.
Massive. And I've got to say this, even though he didn't get man of the match, but he was very, very close to getting the man of the match. I think since Callum Hewitt's come back, Callum frustrated the life out of me at the start of the pre-season, and and again as a manager, listen. whether Callum likes me to say what I'm saying now, it doesn't matter, because I love the guy to bits. And I'd like to think he loves me to bits, right? But I can see through people, and I know that he was like, and he was trying to, and I know he's juggling with his business and his entrepreneurial situation, and I know he's got to look after his girlfriend. But listen, throughout, I expect people to be a bit like me, and throughout my lifetime and everything, I'll be honest, I've neglected at times my family, because I'm focused on, I'm a manager and I want to win football matches, right? So in the grand scheme of things, that's been my focus in my life.
Yeah. It's difficult to understand. Not everyone's like you, Brent.
No, exactly. But yeah, I expect him to be like me, but I get it. So consequently, he's frustrated the life out of me, but he's back, and he's been back on it, and he's going from strength to strength. He's been fantastic, and he's just given us that extra dimension.
Yes.
It was so important that he got, because he took a bad injury. He took a bad knot off an injury that he was out with for quite some time last season. Against Ashton Athletic. I mean, we missed him in the second half against Ashton Athletic. He came off, it was 0-0 at half time, and they scored 4 in the second half. I'm sure that wouldn't have happened had Callum been on the pitch. But he's gone, and he was the same he was brilliant against Colne. I thought yesterday again, he was brilliant again yesterday. And he was really, really unfortunate that I didn't actually. There were so many good performances yesterday. It was hard to pick a man of the match, but he was very, very close with Callum, and I think he's made a massive, massive, massive difference. Because you've got to have that balance, and you need that player like a Callum Hewitt. And I think he's grown more mature in his game. He's more disciplined now, whereas before at times he'd just run anywhere in that midfield area without.
There's more composure to his game.
There's more composure to 100%. There is, and I think he's doing an absolute. Let's hope we can keep him fit, because he's equally as important as the pairing at the back at centre back.
Well, there were good players all over the pitch yesterday, but one player who stood out for me, and he came in for criticism the week before at Ashton, and I've got to give a lot of credit to Ben Langley, because I thought he had an excellent game yesterday.
Listen, 100% he had an excellent game. He was playing against. He didn't play at
their strongest player.
He didn't play at Woolton, and their best player and the most effective, and the player they play to all the time, who was rapid, and could finish, was their number 7. And Ben Langley was
in his shorts.
Obviously in his shorts. He never got a sniff. It was no surprise. He'd obviously made that substitution in the Reds that before Ben were going to be taken off through his injury. That's another thing, I'll come to that in a minute, because I want to talk about his performance.
Yeah.
His performance, listen, he did it. I'm not going to take anything away what I said against blinking Ashton Athletic, right? And I'm not going to take anything away where I had a bit of a dig at my coaches against Ashton Athletic. If I can see that my fullbacks are not stopping crosses, and if I can see that my fullbacks are not blinking supporting the attack, then I expect my coaches to see the same and address it.
Yeah.
And they didn't. I've ended up having to address it on here, right? But we've done it and addressed it. And the game after, the fullbacks, as in Ben Langley, as in Brady Bourman, but obviously on Saturday it was Mason. But on Saturday, Mason, they did it. They was up. They was above the halfway line. They were getting crosses in. It didn't faze blinking Ben yesterday, to take his responsibilities if he needed to go forward. He was still going forward, but he still defended well against the player, their best player, right?
But how effective are we when we do that, when we do the right things in the right positions?
100%. But the thing is, we like I said, he did come in for criticism the week before, but he were in the team yesterday, and I said it at full time because he's left the field just after half time. I said it at full time. Ben could have been in contention for man of the match.
Definitely.
100%. Now, it was a shame he had to leave the field, and it was naughty how he had to leave the field, right? Because he's ended up in blinking A&E. He's broke his nose, which I've got to say this and I don't want people to break the noses, and I don't want things, but I always say this, right? And I've said it even in the past when they're talking about centre halves and they talk about defenders and stuff. I can't get my head round sometimes that some defenders are good looking and they're good looking lads, and I think the pretty boys, right? How can he be pretty being a defender? What the freaking hell? Freaking defenders! The defenders should have bent noses, right? Cauliflower ears, right? I'm old school. That's what they should have. You know, not looking pretty. You know, thinking, call me my hair and freaking pretty boys.
That's why I mean you're ugly, get.
Yeah, exactly. Get in there when it hurts. I mean, are you Steve Bruce? Your freaking nose, you're all over the bleeding show. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to say, Ben, if you're listening, welcome to the bloody ugly club now, and you're fully fledged. You're fully fledged defender because you've got it. You've got marks, and you've got it now. Yeah. So joking apart, he ended up in A&E. He's ended up with a broken nose, but that broken nose has happened naughtily and nastily, and I don't care what anybody says, and they tried it on JJ in front of me.
Yeah, they did.
Right in front of me, and I give it the freaking player that freaking tried it, right? Because what they do while they're on the ground, and it's a blindside, and this is why we can go mad at the assistants, because they're away with the fairies. They do, you know. The FA need to start coaching these people and understand the game, because they think it's ins and outs and it's offsides and it's this. No, the afters happen when they're on the floor. That's when they do the damage, when they're on the floor. And they do it craftily because they're blindside of the referee. And hopefully the liner doesn't see it. Well, the liner never sees it because the liners are all of them. They're all in the same boat. They're away with the fairies. And this is what they've got to look at, the afters. And he's got they did JJ in front of me, and they freaking stamped on him. It was nasty, and he could have been hurt, badly hurt. That's naughty. And down that line, that's exactly what they've done with Ben. And that liner, I'm sorry I'm being critical here, but that liner did nothing to assist the referee. The referee would not have seen it. That lad has not had a break in his nose, right, for just doing his run-of-the-mill business, what he does. He's got a broken nose because he's on the floor and they freaking smashed him on the floor. And that is outrageous.
Yeah.
Massively. And out of order. And these freaking assistants need to get that in the game, to be watching for shit like that. Yeah. Because it was happening all the time on Saturday.
Well, thankfully, we were able to just continue and, put them to bed in the end.
Well, listen. I'm going to tell you something now. There's nobody in football. Listen, you can have your disagreements with the next technical area in 90 minutes football. As a player, when you're competing, you can compete aggressively, but not cowardly, dirty.
Yeah.
Because these lads have got to get up for work on Monday morning, and your lads, them lads have, and I'd say if you're in reverse, right? But there's aggressive. I don't mind the aggressive. I go back to like the 70s, the 60s, the 70s. Even the 80s, when you've got players in there, like David Batty, like blinking Brian Robson, Razor Rudder, all these players, physical, nasty, freaking horrible players to play against. But at the end of the day, it's 90 minutes football, and it's clean. What I say, it's clean. It's not nasty off the ball shit, right? That's coward. I call it cowardly, right? Cowards. The cowards, right? Now then, there was things going on out there, and this is why, you know, the Scousers get bad names and bad reputation, because look, there's a lot of people in Liverpool that I have got the utmost respect for, you know, and are great people, and I have had, right, and I still have. But then there's teams like we had yesterday that they've just come with blinking brutality, right? Let's get one thing straight, and I wouldn't normally say this, but I'm going to say it. They are a bad side. And because they are a bad side, they had to revert to freaking shitty, freaking physicality that was off the scale. Yeah. And even incidents that happened at the end of the game that should not be in football. Yeah. And I'm going to take it, and I've got everything clocked. I've got the name of the person. There's one guy there who was the ringleader, right? Who I shouldn't really bring his name on here, but I don't mind. You know, there's an old saying that when people say something to you and saying, call you a moron, well, he was a moron. But I'd rather say that he's a moron. Yeah. Right? He was a freaking absolute shithouse, right? And he created havoc around the tunnel, right? Caused mayhem around the tunnel, right? Because he didn't show no respect. Outside the ground, in the car park, they've all jumped off the coach and blinking surrounded, and I've got witnesses, right? And it's on camera, right? I've got witnesses and it's on camera, and they've got out the coach, all of them, not one, and confront all of them, shithouses, I call them, shithouses, and surrounded our physio, Miguel, who wouldn't say boo to a goose, who's the nicest guy you could ever wish for. And I suddenly, I asked myself a question here. Is this racial motivation? Because I don't have to tell you the colour, but that will tell you and give you an example, right? Yeah. Is this racial motivation? He's on the car park. He's in the car. He gets in his car.
Against our physiotherapist.
And my goalkeeper, who's in the next car at the other side with his father and his mother, right, and his family, have all witnessed everything that went on in that car park, right? I am not going to leave anything stone unturned. I'm going to have these freaking absolutely done. Because in my time in football, that is absolutely freaking shambolic and outrageous. Outrageous. Right? And I call them, right, shithouses. Because I'll tell you why I call them shithouses. We can all get in groups and all fight in groups. But if we want to have fighting talk, we will have fighting talk. Fight 1-to-1. Keep your men away and let's see how good. Let's see how Mr. Moran reacts. He come out there. He was trying to take blinking spectators on. Well, it's a good job that fencing were there, because them two we were trying to take on, I'll tell you now, unless he had some blinking weapon on him, right, he would have been freaking in a bad state in hospital.
Yeah, and I know who you're talking about.
Because I'm telling you, and he created it all. And I'll tell you something else. The manager doesn't help either, right? The manager, I'm telling you from the start. And what annoys me as well is, and the FA, the worst thing that the FA ever did, and I'm back from when it used to. Why do they have dugouts that are close to each other? Right? It's the worst thing, one of the worst situations they've ever brought in. Because I would never, right, unless I'm forced, get involved with the opposition's dugout. Now, I'm going to give Colne a bit of credit here from the other night, because as much as the fans behind me and me were giving Andy Harrison a bit of stick, which is banter, I get stick when I go to Droylsden, right? It's just technically that were about 3 fans giving Andy, right? So Andy's got to stand there and take this crap, right? But it's just water off a duck's back. You don't freaking bother. They're just freaking supporters coming to give it, right? But all through that game, I'd like to think Colne's dugout, and it was a local derby as such, was quite respectful. The dugout was quite respectful. There was nothing wrong with their dugout at all, right? And there was nothing wrong with our dugout. We never got involved with them. They didn't get involved with us. And that's how it should be, right? Now, during a game of football, a dugout, a technical area, things will be said to a linesman about something that's gone on in the game. They will say things to a linesman about things that's gone on in the game. What I don't like, if they're saying things to a linesman that's gone on in a game, why should our coaches, physio, manager, which is me, get involved with what they're saying? I don't believe they should. No. That's up to them, and it's up to the linesman to deal with it, right? Whatever they're saying. Equally, if we're saying something to the linesman or to players that's on the pitch, they shouldn't be getting involved with that either, right? You keep yourself to yourself, right? That's it. But from the start of that game yesterday, and it happened down in blinking Liverpool only about 3 weeks ago, this freaking numbnuts in the freaking next freaking dugout is coming out with one-liners, just dropping shit in. So he's trying to wind our dugout up all the time. And I'm saying to our dugout, ignore him. To the point that he's like, I can only reminisce to like somebody at home, and God, whoever lives next door to him must have a fucking hell of a life, because he'd be one of them that'd be twitchy curtains, looking through curtains and saying, "Oh, freaking so-and-so next door is leaving now in his car, and he's packed his car and he's over my end here and all that." He'd be one of them. Freaking, he must be. He's about love like neighbour, but he probably doesn't love him. He probably hates his neighbour, right? He was one of them, and he was freaking winding me up to the top till basically I had to turn around and tell him to shut the blinking F up.
Yeah.
Because he was just coming out with absolute verbal freaking diarrhea and being a freaking complete nuisance.
Well, it's like pub league mentality, isn't it?
Honestly, it was ridiculous. Just freaking let him get on. Nigel was shouting something out, and then one of the guys who'd been subbed in Moran, right? We're a Moran, tell you. He kept getting involved with thinking, Nigel, what are we getting involved with him for? Shut up. There's nothing to do. Nigel's nodding. Just stop. You know what you're going on about. But Nigel ended up having to say something to him, like, it's not the way to talk to a blinking, an employed police officer.
Yeah.
So he soon moved behind the fence then, but they shouldn't come to this. I mean, they've not shown a bit of respect, right? We went down there, they absolutely blinking. We were 2-0 down in space of first 8 minutes, right? We've clawed it back to 2-2, right? We've got up the lead at 3-2, right? We're in the front, we're in the ascendancy. 2 situations have happened, right? Which is down to us, not down to them. Down to us, we go down to 9 men. We play with 9 men, and we contain them with 9 men for probably 3/4 of the second half, plus 8 minutes of injury.
Yeah.
Right? 8 minutes of injury. And the only way they scored, and they scored the winner, was by cheating. Cheating. Right? They cheated. They freaking handballed it. They barged everybody into the net, ran in, and they blinking cheated and won the game. Fair enough, they won the game. Not a problem, won the game. We shook hands, went out, bit of banter going off the pitch, down on the blinking thing, and we went home. Right? Yeah. That's it. We went home. I was more bothered about, the fact that they won by cheating, and the officials didn't even blinking, again, away with the bleeding fairies. Right, and they've come back to us, and I'll tell you what, from the minute they've walked onto that ground, now let me tell you, and I'm going to be thinking straight here, they haven't even got a ground, right? So they're starting to be critical, right, of a stadium that anybody in football, whether you like it, it's a proper football original stadium. right? That's what it is. It's not a plastic.
This is the first season at this level.
Yeah, it's not a plastic facility. It's not in a cage. It's not in a sports arena, right? What there is down Jericho Lane, and I'm not taking anything away, but it's a council facility that's plastic, right? And you're in a cage. Well, they deserve to be in a cage because where they acted yesterday, they were like cage lions that have been let out, right, of their cage at Jericho Lane, right? They haven't got a ground of their own, right? In my opinion, should they be in the league? No, they shouldn't because they don't have a ground of their own. That's my opinion. That's just my opinion. So they haven't got a ground of their own. They come up there, they're being disrespectful, right? And from the very off, all they've come to try to intimidate, freaking smash and grab, think they could get some. Maybe if the manager composed himself and started to act like a manager should act, right? And then maybe his players would act and play like they could play because they have got some very, very good players. Right, let's get one thing straight. They have got some very, very good players. So if those players, right, if their manager didn't act like he was the blinking circus manager, right, circus blinking guy that's whipping the bloody lions and freaking doing that in the cages, right, and letting them play freely and going about their jobs like they should do instead of trying to blinking kick 7 bells of shit out of you when you're on the floor, right, then maybe they might survive the Northwest Counties League this season and stay in, right, and progress. But at the minute, they're a car crash that's happened, not waiting to happen. It's happened. Right. Yeah. And yesterday, and the behaviour yesterday was off the scale. They created havoc going off the pitch, and all that happened is our captain has gone to shake somebody's hand who wouldn't shake his hand, and all he said, my captain, and I witnessed everything, is show some respect. Right, the rest is kicked off. They've tried to kick off, but they were mixing with the wrong people. Right, they've tried to kick off with the wrong people. It's a good job that fencing were there, I'm telling you, because that clown, right, would have been freaking seriously hurt now. And I don't mean to say things like this on the show, but if them could have got near him, he would have been seriously hurt now. Believe me. But then they've not even come into the club. I'm not bothered about that. I'm not interested. But they've not shown no respect there. They've gone in the car park and they've been absolutely surrounded our physio that's on his own and isolated and absolutely blinking petrified him. Right?
Well, the beauty is with that situation, Brent. One, you got the witnesses of Billy and his parents, and we've got the school CCTV cameras. 100%.
And I'll leave no stone unturned because I'm not having that situation, and I'm not having it that one of my staff or a supporter or anything can't walk to the car, which is slightly away from the ground, without being
30 or 40 of them
coming at him or her. It's not happening. Not happening.
But apart from that, it was all about the 3 points.
But what I will say away from that, and I've got to say it on two games now, and I don't often say this, I thought Christopher Cooper-Tong, who was the referee against Colne, refereed that game very, very well. It's a pleasure and a privilege to have good referees. And I also think that yesterday, Simon Harrison, the referee yesterday, refereed that game really, really well in a difficult situation. I think that I know somebody who listened to the comms and you were having a bit of a pop at the ref at times at some of the things that were going on and he weren't giving. But in his defence, and I've got to say this, Steve, in his defence, I would leave. Correct, his assistants weren't helping him, and sadly in modern day it does come back on the referee. But
what I was doing, I was just talking about the points that you've made in regards to, you know, the nastiness going on off the ball that the referee weren't able to get a grip on. But that's where he needs assistance from his linesman.
Yeah, 100%. 100%, and that's what I think. I thought he had an excellent game, really did. But there were things going on that he wouldn't see. I mean, that one with JJ in front of me, Jacob May in front of me was horrible. You know, it could have been horrible. It weren't. I mean, he covered himself. You know, he protected himself. But the liner, he did it in such a way that the ref wouldn't see it, but the liner could see it because he's looking right up the line at it.
Yeah.
You know, so you know the linesmen have got to take more responsibility. And I keep going back to this. Let me just say this about the FA, right? About dugouts. I kind of think that it needs, if they want to keep them on the same side, I think they've got to be wider apart, because there's a lot of things go on, and I see the minutes of the Northwest Counties meeting, and I do see reports that there's lots of things happen between two technical areas, right? Well, I kind of think that is down to emotions run high, people get involved, things are said between dugouts that people don't take it kindly. They're up there and they're pushing and shoving, which didn't happen yesterday, by the way. But what I'm saying is, does happen, and they wonder why, you know, there's too much going on within discipline in this situation. Well, think about it. Try and eradicate it by, if you don't want them on the opposite sides, put them on the same side, but make them wider.
Yeah.
A ground that well, it did do. I think they've got them closer now, because, again, for ground grading, we're AFC Blackpool, because one were blinking one side and one were miles off, so you can never listen.
Droylsden's pretty good.
Yeah, Droylsden's quite aware. Yeah, it is. But that's how they all should be. So I think that needs looking at. But the biggest one for me as well, with what kicked off at the end, I can never get my head round this. It's a protocol between the FA, and I mean, surely the people at the FA aren't so blinking gullible to know that things kick off up in tunnels. I mean, we've got an open tunnel, as it happens. There's no roof on it. It's just caged off, right? And you've got an open tunnel. But in some places, like, where can I say, Atherton Collieries, they have a tunnel that's literally a tunnel.
Like a concertina thing that opens and closes.
So when you get in that tunnel, there's all sorts of things can go on. I remember several years ago, it's a long time ago, I mean, Daniel Cox were playing for us, but there's an incident in the tunnel. Nobody saw it. I saw it. I was in there, in the middle of it all, right? Yeah. But it's all kicking off in the tunnel, blinking tunnels moving like that. There's blinking tunnels going side by side, but nobody can get, because obviously it's going on in the tunnel. You can't see what's happening in the tunnel. So you tell me, right, why do they have referees and assistants where it's always protocol that they're the last off the pitch? Right? If they got the linesman, if it was protocol that the linesman that's nearest to the tunnel makes his way at the end of the game to the top of the tunnel and stands there, he would see everything. So yesterday, if that were to happen, that liner on our side would have been in the tunnel and he would have seen everything that kicked off. Yeah. He would have seen everything. So there'd have been none about what they say, or our say, or their say, or whoever say. He would have seen it and witnessed it. Instead, the officials were helpless because they're at the wrong side and they could not see a lot what was happening. So then they're reliant upon people's statements. But people's statements, even in blinking everyday blinking, can be flawed because it's obviously they can exaggerate or take things off. It's not necessarily correct. Right? So, in my opinion, I think the FA need to look at certainly two things. One is that the dugouts are further apart, on the same side if they want them on the same, but they need to be further apart so you don't get that confrontation situation. And also, I think that the liner on the tunnel side, the entrance side, makes his way off the ground at the end of the game and just stands in the tunnel, right? Yeah. And then if there is something that starts to kick off, he's the first witness that sees it.
Yeah. And really, if you put it down to that, that's just pure common sense, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But unfortunately,
we're not doing it.
No, exactly.
I'm not going to say any more to add, but I just want one more point, Brent. We've spoke about it over the last couple of weeks and months. Ange been the first casualty at Nottingham Forest. 8 games. Come on. He hadn't even had time to get out of bed.
It said on Match It Day, didn't it? 39 days.
Pathetic. No, what's the chairman? You know?
It's ridiculous. I mean, he's the owner of the club, fair enough, and all that. But honestly, it's ridiculous. I mean, listen, if I ran, I mean, apart from he's a laughing stock. The guy in Nottingham Forest is a laughing stock, and he doesn't deserve it. Any manager that's worth the salt, would not go in that club. Right, nothing wrong with Nottingham Forest. Always been a good club and all, but it's discrediting an absolute top historic football club because of his ways and the things that he did. I mean, what he used to do with the previous manager, walking on the pitch. What's all that about? The guy is a nonsense. He's an absolute nonsense, and any manager worth his salt will not take that job. Right, and he doesn't deserve anybody to take that job because he'll just embarrass him, which is the way he's done now. He's embarrassed Ange. Yeah. From a financial point of view, Ange will be rubbing his hands because he'll think, well, listen, it's his loss, not mine. He's just had to part with blinking several hundred thousands of pounds. My bank account swelled, so be it. I'll get a job somewhere else with a more creditable chairman, chief executive, and owners. So on that front, I won't feel too sorry for Ange because he'll be rubbing his hands all the way to the bank.
A couple of 100,000. I think he'll be he's had to part company with a few million, Brent.
Well, exactly. So, but in terms of the chairman, the owner, the guy's a crackpot.
Poison chalice, whoever takes that, and they're struggling, aren't they? Forest, unfortunately, from last season, doing absolutely fantastic, getting into Europe to where they are now, it's not looking good.
Well, I'm a big believer in this. If it's not right at the top, it won't be right at the bottom.
Yeah,
and it's certainly not right at the top at Nottingham Forest, so that's why it's not right at the bottom.
No. Final point. Next week, because we always focus on the week. Looking at the fixtures, we've got a very important, a very challenging next 2 weeks, haven't we, Brent? With McGull next week, and then we've got 2 visits from Olka, 2 sides who are doing really well this season in the league.
I blinking hate that when they do that. I always think that's
cruel. That on Olka.
No, it is cruel on Olka, but I also think, and it don't matter who it is, and Olka are a good. Listen, Olka are a good club, and Olka are a good, and Olka are a good team. But listen, it's a thinking. Can you imagine? I mean, we've just had 10 minutes of talking about the blinking lions from the blinking cages in Jericho Lane, right? Can you imagine if that were that situation with them? It's a blinking absolute. It needs. If you've got drawn against a club like that, and it just happens to impede on you on a league game the week after. They should move the league game for obvious reasons, because what happens is the stakes are high. I'm not saying this will happen with a Bake-Up Olka, because there's always been respectful games between Bake-Up and Olka, right? But what I'm saying is, if you're playing against a team that's got that reputation, and it's on the edge game, and it's too close together, like, so something can, if there's a feud going on or a feud happen, and you play it week after, it comes on to the week after. It needs changing. Them Olka fixtures for me need not listen, Oka are all right, but it's football at the end of the day. Something could go off. You don't know, right? Something could happen. And to me, the league have a responsibility. And for me, one of them, the league game, if the league game, they need to rearrange it because they're not coming down back to back like that. You know, they'll still have to come.
You talk about, I know what you're talking about how it can cause with friction, but also, look at the travelling that them lads have got to do.
I know, and 2 weeks, if you think about it financially on the cash flow, that's 2 back-to-back weeks where they've got quite a bit.
Money coming in.
No money coming in, and got quite a bit of outlay, in travelling. Everything's wrong, but again, listen, I can't knock the North West Counties League.
No,
I mean, they've helped me, but I've got to make this point. I think the people who are responsible in terms of like your fixture secretary, when these things happen in the cup, and it's not the first time I've said this, when you get drawn against somebody, it's the luck of the draw or the bad luck of the draw, whatever you want to call it. But if you get drawn against a team and the week after you're playing that team in a league game, I think that league game needs putting away and reorganising so that there's not a potential discipline situation or an indisciplined situation. They've got as much responsibility and to take some responsibility in making sure and for prevention as much as clubs have to take responsibility and make sure that they keep their house in order.
Absolutely. Any points to add, Brent, before we wrap up the show?
No, I just the only thing that I've just got to say is that, and we can't prove who's done it or whatever, and I didn't really want to mention this, but I think I should mention it, is that whoever attended the Colne Bacup Borough game on Wednesday, keep your blinking felt tips in your pocket and do not freaking try and disgrace in a bar that's freaking absolutely cost a fortune, that's not really open yet, and you're defacing, nothing derogative, but it's the fact that they've used permanent marker on a wall and on a toilet seat, and equally on a door that's cost a lot of blinking money. Add some respect, and believe me, there's cameras in the club as well, so we'll scrutinise the cameras and we'll find the perpetrator, right? But that's the only thing that put a dampener onto an excellent night with 3 points and a 2-1 win.
Brilliant. Excellent show as always, and I'll see you in the week, Brent.
Top man.